Stop Like Bill Stoppard, aka the B Stop. Alright, Sean here, Shop Task YYC. We're going to continue our in-depth look at Bill Stoppard's skating by analyzing Bill Stoppard's stopping method of choice, which I'm dubbing today the B Stop. Now, the B Stop is really great for anyone that wants to learn how to stop without using their heel brakes. Really good for city skating because it's applicable in just about every situation, whether you're on rough asphalt or smooth concrete, any surface, not a problem with the stopping technique. Also really good, I think, for inline hockey players, or if you're just the average Joe out on the pathway that wants to add a new stopping technique to their repertoire. Now, essentially what Bill Stoppard does is he combines a drag stop with a power slide, but it's not that easy. There's a lot going on there. So we're going to break down each position and the transitions from each position, and we're going to look at where our weight is, how we're transferring our weight, how we're balancing the rotations, the edging, all these sorts of things. We're going to break it way down, but I must warn you, there's a lot of information here and maybe it's too much. That's fair. So what I'm going to give you are the cues, things that you can say to yourself when you're out practicing this, and you're going to see me breaking it down starting from standing and then slowly starting to skate into it. Okay, so let's start with our cues. So our cues are going to be drag, lunge, rotate, and push. Now it sounds like 4 things, but it's really only 3. Drag, lunge, rotate, and push. So think rotate and push as one movement. Okay, so let's first look at me practicing it on the spot and try and think about those cues as we go. Now, this is worth mentioning, of course, we always start in our predator position. I've done some videos in the before breakdowns on this, so we'll link to those. Definitely check those out. We'll touch on it here. So drag into my lunge. So I'm in the lunge position here. Rotate and push. Okay. Now, let's look at each individual position and we'll break it down a little bit further. Okay, so now here in my predator position. So predator is essentially a ready rolling stance with a slight scissor. My head is up, hands are forward, knees bent. Weight is on the third wheel, one foot slightly in front of the other one. So a slight scissor there, very important for city skating. When you're in that scissor position, we're not going to get caught on cracks and bumps. We're going to roll smoothly over rough surfaces. Okay, setting up in our predator. From the predator, moving into our drag stop position. So essentially what I'm doing here is I am putting all my weight on my balancing leg. A good time to introduce that. So for the sake of this breakdown, balancing leg is going to be my left leg. The stopping leg is going to be my right leg. So transferring 100% of my weight onto the balancing leg, rotating my hip out, placing my foot down gently at about a 75-degree angle to create the drag stop position. Now when you're learning the drag stop, the number one tip you can learn is 100% weight on your balancing leg and then gently, gently, gently placing the drag foot down and slowly applying more weight to create a more effective break. But you can't just slam your braking foot down. You're going to go out of control. Okay, that being said, so into my drag position here. From the drag position, I'm going to move into my lunge position. So the lunge position is going to happen as you see my feet separate a little bit, a bigger space between my feet now. They're still in essentially the same positions, but you'll notice now my balancing foot has now moved to the outside edge. I've created a bigger space. I've moved to the outside edge. In the lunge position here, my weight is going to be closer to 60-40. 60% on the balancing leg, 40% on the stopping leg. Now from my lunge position, I'm going to start into the rotation and the push. And something interesting happens here. Okay, so I'm in the middle of the rotation here. So my drag foot is still on that inside edge. My balance foot is still on the outside edge. But as I'm rotating, it's very similar to a swivel. So as I'm swiveling, the weight on my balancing foot is now going to be closer to the front, closer to my toes, about on that second wheel. And The weight on my stopping foot is going to be firmly in the heel, third wheel or back. I'm pushing hard through that third wheel. Now, as I'm rotating through, I'm going to be pushing, and that's going to cause me to drive almost, say, 99% of my weight. Oh, pardon me. 99% of my weight onto that stopping leg. So you see me come through here as I push, putting lots of weight into that stopping leg in that position there. Okay, let's look at it again. So predator, right? Ready rolling stance, slight scissor, center edges. Drag position here, right? All the weight on that balancing foot. Moving into the lunge, there's now more weight on that stopping foot. Now that rotate and push. And remember, I'm pushing through the heels of my feet, driving on that inside edge. Now here we're going to have a closer look at that rotation and what's happening with my balancing leg. Remember I said as I'm rotating, the weight is moving closer to my toes. And you could see me almost pivoting on my toe wheel there if you're watching closely on my balancing foot. Okay, so now we got an idea of what's going on. I start to move gently now, going through the positions. You see that drive through the heel. You see that pivot almost on that front wheel. All right, there it is. Now let's look closer at Bill Stoppard and we'll see those positions. Okay, here's in that ready rolling predator position. Super important for any city skater. Really, this is step 0. This is where you want to be. Okay, now you see him here slowly moving into that drag position. You know, about a 75-degree angle between his feet. His feet are fairly close together. Now moving here now into more of a lunge position. Now in this lunge position, it's hard to tell from this angle, but that balancing foot's on the outside edge. You can see it definitely there. You see that rotate and push. And Bill Stoppard is really strong on that inside edge, on that braking foot, which is super important. If you're not strong on that inside edge, you run the risk of getting caught and falling. Okay, thank you for watching. I gotta say, this is probably, if you learn one thing from Bill Stoppard, it's this stopping technique, because this is something that truly works on just about every surface, and it's gonna allow you to skate freely without that heel brake. It gives you that sense of freedom. The heel brake, as you may know, definitely has its benefits. I'm a big fan of the heel brake, but when you start skating backwards on uneven pavement, you run the risk of catching the brake. Certainly stair riding in the forward position is very difficult with the brake on. You're going to really open up the world when you learn the stopping technique and be able to take that heel brake off. Okay, thanks again for watching. We're going to come back again next week. We're going to have another breakdown. We're going to look at Bill Stoppard's jumping and landing technique. Thank you for watching. Namaste.